Good morning. Chris Lee, joined by Jay Greason and Graham Doty of Southeastern 16. We are about, let's be exact, 25 hours away from the start of the NCAA baseball tournament on Friday. Cannot wait for that. We've got a whole show of stuff planned to talk to you guys about. We're going to take your questions, your comments as always. We encourage participation. So if you've got a question, pop it up there. We'll address your topic. Best way to do that, super chat us. That helps the channel. Those pop out on the screen a little bit more. We will always address those. Like it's nothing profane or anything like that, which our audience is 99.9% of the time respectful of those kind of things, because that's the kind of people you guys are. All right, Graham, we had a whole list of stuff to talk about, and we're going to get there. But right before the show, you dropped a little bomb on me. And we're not fine. I mean, I say a bomb. It's not like we didn't know this was a talking point, but in my prep for other stuff, I think the biggest story in college baseball right now might be happening in Starkville.
So, yeah, right before we were about to go live, Kendall Rogers tweeted this less than 15 minutes ago. By the way, Kendall, he's the one that broke Mississippi State hiring Chris Lemonis 7-8 years ago, whatever it was. So, obviously, the track record is good with Kendall. So, Kendall Rogers on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, breaking, a deal is not yet done, but longtime Virginia head coach Brian O'Connor has emerged as a clear-cut front runner to be the next head coach at Mississippi State. Home run hire for Mississippi State athletic director Zach Selman.
And when this happened a month or so ago, we talked about Mississippi State's AD and his ACC background. We talked about the need for a splash hire. We talked about how state baseball, in a football-driven league, state baseball is as important. I mean, if you take Kentucky basketball out of the non-football programs in this league, and Kentucky basketball clearly is head and shoulders really above just about anything. Mississippi State baseball is right there in the next tier. So in a lot of ways, is it a splash hire? Absolutely. Is it a surprise hire? I mean, not when you're swinging for it shouldn't be a surprise to hit a home run when you're swinging for the fences.
Mm-hmm. Graham, you think that they're going all in on baseball to a degree that nobody else in the league is probably about to? I mean, who knows, right? You never know where any of this stuff is going. Are there going to be caps on things? But baseball appears to be Mississippi State's first priority. Now, look, I can never believe for sure that football is not a school's first priority when you're in the SEC, but I do wonder how that's going to affect or not affect other sports. That's one thing. The other thing, like if you can just take any coach right now and say, I can pick anybody to run my program. Brian O'Connor is a top 10 at minimum, if not a top 5. That is a wonderful get for Mississippi State if this goes down.
Yeah, it definitely is. So here's what I'll say. So got to give credit where credit is due. So Thunder and Lightning, Robbie Falk, Ryan Haydad, they've had this podcast forever. If you're a Mississippi State fan, you definitely know what it is. So was listening to them, and they kind of compared it to South Carolina women's basketball and what South Carolina does with Dawn Staley. Like not necessarily a sport that makes a lot of money, but they're so good at it that there's just a whole lot of good publicity for that program and for that university. And so that was the thought process and just how they compared it between the two. So like, to me, I look at this as like O'Connor kicked the tires on Texas A&M last year. It was very, very late in the process. He did get a raise last year from Virginia. So I don't know what in the world has happened in the past year, but obviously he's looking at this Mississippi State situation. And if all the numbers and everything that they're telling him are accurate, that they're essentially going to go all in on baseball. Yeah. Like he's about to walk into a situation with like great resources, facilities, support, like you name it. He's going to get way more of it in Starkville at Mississippi State than he would at Virginia. If in fact this goes down, it looks like it's trending in the direction that it would be a surprise if he says no and stays at Virginia. So phenomenal hire by Mississippi State. I'm like, one thing I am curious, I looked it up. He did have a stretch where he didn't make a regional for 3 years in a row. I can tell you if you do that at Mississippi State, that's not going to fly. That's the difference. Like, he could be at Virginia for however long he wants to be, statue, all that stuff. You don't make the tournament for 2 years in a row at Mississippi State. Not saying that that's going to happen. You know, that's just not going to fly over there. But if you're a State fan, you got to be extremely excited. In my lifetime, this is the only time I can ever think of that State hired like a national champion head coach at a Power 4, Power 5 in any sport. Like, you pluck a dude that's a giant in this game, and now he's in Starkville. Like, it's a really, really fantastic hire. Jay and I were talking before we went live. How ironic is it that Texas A&M was preseason number 1, Virginia was preseason number 2, and neither one of them made the NCAA tournament this year?
That also plays into, this does not feel like the bait and switch, kick the tire so I can get a raise at my current employer, because there's no way Virginia can justify giving him a raise, even with his status in the game. If you're preseason 2 and you're sitting at home on May 29th, then the season was not raise worthy.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's different ways to look at this, right? One way is just Mississippi State. Okay. Great job, phenomenal crowds, passionate about baseball, history and tradition. I think when you start comparing that to Virginia, obviously I'm always, and this is me, I'm always a kind of stay in your spot if you know the dangers. Mm-hmm. You know, if you know the dangers, the good things, if you're comfortable, if you got kids in school, whatever. I'm not a big make change for the sake of change guy, especially when we got families involved. So again, I don't know Brian O'Connor's circumstances, but I will tell you this. The SEC is a league you want to be in sports right now. If it's not that, it's the Big Ten. I would have to think that's a factor. I would also think it's easier to get players in at Mississippi State than it is at Virginia.
Big time. You're talking about academically and everything?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time. It's in the chat, and I meant to make this point earlier. So one thing that they said on Thunder and Lightning, so the game plan for Mississippi State, they're going to go in the direction of 2 ways. They're going to hire a general manager for baseball, which I do think we're going to see more teams, especially in this league, in the SEC, to do that. You see it in football. You even see it in basketball now. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal is the general manager for Sacramento State men's basketball. So if they got Shaq, you know, these SEC teams are going to go the route of that, just because it's – like, baseball wise, there's not a lot of coaches. There's not a lot of support staff compared to everything else. And they got to monitor the portal and all this stuff. So that makes sense. Then the other thing, they're saying State is going to hire Wake Forest as pitching coach, and he's going to leave Wake Forest to go to Mississippi State. So if all of that comes to fruition, like, this has to be the best day ever if you're a Mississippi State baseball fan.
The other, hey, the GM thing is spot on, and you're getting a lot of it. I mean, for goodness sakes, look at the names. You mentioned Shaq, and he goes to Sacramento State. Andrew Luck is now, I think, isn't he the GM at, like, Stanford? And
he is. And he fired the football coach like a month ago.
And you look up, and Bill Belichick's first hire at North Carolina was Mike Lombardi, who used to be an NFL GM. It used to be that the guys who were quote unquote GM of programs, that they were the director of operations, and they handed coaches itineraries of their day, their speeches that they were going to have to give to whatever Rotary they were visiting and who was visiting on the weekend. Now those guys are going to need to be CPAs who manage budgets, especially if the house deal goes through like we know it. because you're going to have salary caps across every sport. So the GM role, it's not only going to be if you hire a coach, who are you bringing in as a staff? Who's your GM's going to be first question.
Yeah, exactly. Because those guys can sit there and look at the portal, see who hopped in and all that stuff. You know, these coaches, there's only 24 hours in a day. You know, they got to make the most of it. Chris, you're just typing away over there. Are you stunned?
No, got a little business to take care of in a little bit too that I'm working on behind the scenes. But also just letting you guys talk for a bit. Yeah, I mean that's.
Hey, glad to have you, Randall, who just joined in the subscription tier.
Oh, thank you, Randall.
Or I don't know. He just said he joined. He may have joined the YMCA. I don't know. And if that happened, Randall, I hope you get in good shape for the summertime. Get a summer.
That's right. I think Randall may have been the guy that joined yesterday. Yeah, and we need to come up with some members only content, which we will. Been kind of too busy getting the free stuff ready. We finished regional previews yesterday. We've got those for all 13 teams. You can catch those at the channel if you haven't already. So, yeah, story in the air this morning, Mississippi State appears to be hiring Brian O'Connor. Not finished, but Kendall Rogers has broke it. Kendall's kind of the Woj of college baseball, I guess is a good way to put it, and also a friend of mine. But gets a lot of these scoops, that kind of thing.
It's just the perfect storm, perfect timing. Like Virginia didn't make the tournament. You know, State doesn't obviously have a head coach right now. So that's why you're seeing this escalate as quickly as it has. I mean, when we were doing our live reaction show for who made the tournament and who's going where and all that, the fact when we saw Virginia didn't make it, I mean, that was my first thought. Was like, if something is going to happen, it's about to happen like in the next 2 to 3 days. And here we are.
Yeah, you called it. You called it then for sure. Thank you, Ethan Cooper.
Well, the other thing that allows that makes a lot of sense here is we know there are still some disgruntled teams out there who still may be in the tournament or one in the eastern part of the state of Texas who didn't make this tournament, who may be in the market for new coaches when all this is said and done. So picking first and spending big allows you to get who you want before a bidding war happens.
Yeah. So like Jay's kind of making to read between the lines. I'll just say it. So Kendall Rogers went statewide in Mississippi yesterday or 2 days ago, Super Talk Mississippi, and they asked him, and he flat out said, like he is anticipating a coaching change in College Station and Texas A&M. I mean, he just came out and said it. So again, Kendall lives in that area, went there, all that stuff. So that's probably the next thing potentially that we're looking at here, coaching change wise in the SEC. I think it's just these two potentially this time around, and then we'll see what the ripple effects are.
Yeah, which means to me they're sitting on somebody still playing.
Yeah.
Accurate.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Somebody that's been on this show potentially.
Oh, interesting. That's a tease, isn't it? Okay. Let's get into the tournament. Again, if you're just joining us, you can catch all this on replay. We just spent about 14 minutes unpacking Mississippi State's appears to be pending hire, Brian O'Connor. Nothing finished yet, but looks like that's where it's headed. So if you're joining us, you can catch all our discussion there. Gentlemen, let's get into baseball that we'll be seeing this weekend. And I guess the headliner last night, I think you guys all saw it. Alfred sent it to us. I guess Texas doesn't have a field problem, but it does have a fence blown down, which is not an opportune time to have that happen just before you play your regional. I think as about a dozen hours ago, news reports were that they'll get it fixed in time. But if you didn't check it out and see the news or Twitter or whatever, the whole center field fence at Dish Falk Field had been collapsed by 77-mile-an-hour winds? Was that what it was?
Jeez, if that's the case, I didn't see the wind part. I figured it was something like that. But what? Clock is ticking. You got 24 hours. or less now to get it fixed before all the games this weekend.
Yeah.
Sam, you are not wrong.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That was the pre-Jay Greason era, though.
Yeah,
And
that was.
everybody loves me, except that guy from
Yeah.
Arkansas who thinks I'm a clown.
Yeah. Here's an interesting thing. Let's say they couldn't get that fixed in time. Like, do you scramble to find like a minor league ballpark and move all that?
You could. What's the one right next to it? Round Rock. Isn't Round Rock the Express? They're like 20, 30 minutes down the road.
Okay.
I don't know if they want to do that.
This question popped up to me because it came up on a show, and I didn't know the answer because I've never seen it happen. But we did just see it happen in the what was the name of the tournament? The one that Stetson's in. Atlantic Sun. Thank you. You had enough games rained out where they couldn't finish the tournament in time, and so they just passed the team in the driver's seat, which was Stetson, on to the NCAA tournament. Like, somebody asked me, like, what happens if we get down, because you've got a drop dead date for these regionals. Like, let's say that you just got torrential rainstorms and pick your park, especially if it's one with grass. What happens if you can't finish in time? Like, do you move a regional 2 hours somewhere else to finish it up? Like, I've never really thought about that until now.
I go paper, rock, scissors.
That'll go over well.
Right, that'd be great.
Home run derby.
Home run derby.
Yeah. I think the A-Sun stuff. I think they flipped a coin. So what if you just the old 50-50 shot?
I don't know, but I've never thought about it. We've never seen it happen. They always manage to get them in, and especially if you've got a turf field, it's easier to play through. But like I'd never. Like, I think at some point the NCAA would have to make some kind of exception, because you don't want to get to a super regional with a team getting a pass. Now maybe if you're up 19-0 and in a Monday night game or and it's obvious where it's headed, I get that, but I don't know. If you play this tournament 1,000 times, that's going to happen to somebody at some time at some point.
As Sam said, A&M's park's not being used.
Yeah, that I'm sure that'll go over well.
Jay, you had to do that.
Yeah.
I hope Bart wasn't here to hear that. He doesn't deserve that.
Now, I agree with like all the Texas fans in the chats. Like, yes, I think it's safe to say that the Longhorns, they got the money to fix it quickly. And then I don't remember Ben Hodge. He said it happened last year in Tallahassee at Florida State. I don't remember that at all. Do you guys?
Phyllis Inman, I don't remember that either.
Said a tornado in Tallahassee impacted the stadium.
Okay. Literally impacted the stadium?
Oh, that's what he's saying.
Wow.
Randy, hard pass. We hate bubbles.
I'm siding with Ethan Cooper here. I say we pick the best mascot, and then now UTSA is headed all the way to Omaha.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
You can't beat the
San Antonio.
Well, the dog shock fits.
We got to put the collar on the center fielder,
right?
And he can't go catch it.
Oh, that would be entertaining. Speaking of a warning track,
not for the center fielder, it wouldn't be entertaining.
No, I mean, I'm not speaking from the rest of our point of view. That's funny though. Okay, now that we think Texas's field is good, do you guys want to go into pitching stuff next, or toughest or easiest draws? Because we got a long list of stuff. We got some pitching matchups announced. We've got some that haven't been announced. We've also got the early and late game debate. By the way, I looked at it. That's trending in a different direction. Where would you guys like to go next?
Well, the early late debate, we have greatly undersold how potential TV has had an influence on this. And I know the coaches of the host site get to pick, but it's not a surprise that SEC teams that are hosting are staggered throughout the day.
Well, I don't know if it's a TV thing or is that the host gets the choice, correct? Of which time slot they want. So, and right now, by the way, the score is, and Graham, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like all the hosts almost always selected the night game. Now, LSU, I feel like, has done it for a while, maybe Texas. But the score right now is 9 teams are taking the night spot of the host, and 7 are taking the day spot. I don't ever remember a shift like that. Do you?
I don't either. That's what Mike Bianco was talking about the other day. He said this is a relatively new trend, as in like within the past 5 years, that the host teams are starting to pick and choose to play the early game. I don't know. I really like Mike Bianco's answer to that. Like, lost in all of this craziness of college athletics or fans, and just how hard it is to be a fan financially for tickets and parking and where you're going to stay and all that. So that a big reason why Ole Miss is playing the night game is to reward the fans. Plus you normally play Friday nights anyway, so why would you mix it up?
Well, if you do play the night game and there is rain,
you're
unexpected. Yeah, I mean, you're bumped to the early game the next day. It does give you more rest for your pitching. I mean, it's a balancing act between, do you want more of your fans in the stadium? Do you want to deal with the heat? And see, to me, I would rather play my games at night. It's not as hot, and it might wear your opponent down, but if you're the one playing the 4, you're probably not going to see them again if you win the game. So
right.
To me, I'd rather have my guys a little fresher from that standpoint. Now, again, it goes the other way with rest. But here's the other thing too, guys. The ball, home runs have been up across college baseball. They're down a little bit this year. But one thing that affects that is weather. And at night, it gets cooler and damper, and the ball's not going to carry as much. So I do wonder, does this play into some situations too, especially if you're built around pitching and defense? Mm-hmm. Do you want your games at night where the conditions for home runs are probably going to be less favorable?
SEC teams playing at night: Vandy, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Oklahoma State, and Auburn.
Georgia plays at night too, don't they?
No, they play the day.
They got the noon Eastern game.
Okay.
Yeah. And so State was at the mercy of Florida State, but the others, Georgia made that choice deliberately. Let's see. Let's count for the SEC. Okay, so Vanderbilt chose to play night. That's 1-0 for night choices for the SEC.
Tennessee.
Well, hang on. I'm looking down the sides of the bracket just to get it. Auburn chose to play at night among teams that had a choice. By the way, the SEC teams were disproportionately signed to the right side of the bracket. Assigned, that is. Texas is going day, so that's 2-1. Ole Miss is going night, that's 3-1. Georgia's going day, that's 3-2. LSU's going day, that's 3-3. Tennessee going night, that's 4-3. Arkansas going day. So we're split.
Did you count Auburn?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I don't know. It's interesting. Like, I haven't done the research yet, but somebody should. Like, what did the numbers say? Like, how did the teams come out of the regionals that played the first game versus the night game?
No clue.
But I don't know. It is interesting. I'm fascinated to see if that's a trend that will stick, or will everybody go back to playing their first game at night?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's been 1 or 2 teams did it. LSU has done it for a while. And I feel like Texas has always been a team that's done that. Now, I haven't been locked into Texas baseball until the last year. So we got Texas fans in the chat. They can help us out. But I feel like those are the 2 teams that I feel like have done it. Van Horn never chooses night games. Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that'd been a thing with Arkansas either, but I guess it has been.
Yeah, they got the 2:00 game.
Yeah. That's going to be an event in Fayetteville.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time. What do you think Vandy's going to draw? Being
They'll
the number one They will. Okay.
Ticket prices in Nashville are expensive.
You want to talk expensive? The cheapest ticket for LSU's nooner is $54.
It's not too bad. I saw Auburn is inserting like those temporary stands and bleachers just to get more people in there.
It's supposed to be cool here this weekend in Nashville.
It's supposed to be beautiful in Chattanooga. Now, nobody's playing in Chattanooga, but still.
Well, I'm just wondering, like, if are we getting cooler weather across the South this weekend? What's it going to be looking like?
Well, comparative to normal late May, but
right.
We've had 11.5 inches of rain in May. It's going to be the wettest month on record in the city of Chattanooga history.
Yeah, that's why I had to mow my grass 5 days after I mowed it last time, which is rare.
Whoa,
I'm just glad it's still alive.
Amazing.
It is amazing. Wow.
How about that cheapest ticket for Vandy? Yeah.
Yeah. Now there are some freebies available. If you're in Nashville, the parking garage, caddy corner of the right field foul pole, you can watch there for free. And actually get a surprisingly good view. You can see everything.
Yeah. 25th Avenue. Every Vandy game I've done, that's where I've had to park.
Yeah.
And then you get reimbursed for.
If you can't get a ticket, what you want to do is you want to get there and go get a spot on the rail on the wall there facing the ballpark. I mean, you can have hundreds of more people watching because it's like a 9-story garage.
Yeah.
So
wow. Eli Wilson just said On3 is reporting and confirming Wake Forest's pitching coach is going to Mississippi State.
My goodness.
Jeez. That guy's been at Wake Forest forever. I looked it up.
Well,
he's been there 14 years.
Well, and they have pitching facilities too.
Yeah.
At Wake. So
jeez.
Yeah. So, boy, if tickets are expensive in Fayetteville this weekend, let's see what they are next weekend if Tennessee comes to town.
Yeah, when the Vols come to town.
Yeah.
By the way, somebody had a good question earlier in the chat. It was, which SEC host site has the most dangerous 2 seed? My answer to that question would be Georgia Tech, since they won the ACC.
I mean, your pool of candidates would be in its host site only. Because I think Mississippi State got a brutal draw in Tallahassee. But
what about Duke? Is Duke a candidate?
Yeah, Duke's a candidate, especially how it matches up hitting-wise. I mean, NC State's no walk in the park.
Wake Forest?
Potentially. Although, yeah, Wake is a 2. That's correct. I mean, Dallas Baptist would probably be in the discussion.
I think LSU will have no problems there.
I think Vanderbilt got the weakest 2 of the SEC hosts.
Yeah. As they should. Yeah. They're the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I looked it up. Louisville, they steal a ton of bases, like a ton.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Yeah. Do you want to get in? You want to stick with this and go toughest to easiest draws, or should we do pitching? Because that actually might affect how we answer this.
Well, you want to ask the chat, or do you?
Yeah. What would you guys? Here's what's on the agenda next. We've got stuff I had to talk about. We've got pitching matchups, what we think teams are doing, what teams have announced. We've got toughest to easiest draws in the regional. I wanted to get into that. So you guys tell us, and then just, catch all. If you guys got questions, comments, stuff you want us to address, we'll do that too. So we'll see what the chat says, and we'll go that direction.
Right now, Ben Hodge is saying pitching.
Okay. We'll wait for a couple more votes.
Specifically, East Carolina, Florida matchup. I can tell you what Florida's doing. I looked that one up earlier.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a regional matchups and we got a pitching. We'll wait for a couple more votes to get in. I'm prepared to go either way.
Yeah.
While I wait for the votes to come in, I'll tell you who's not starting, I don't think, this weekend. That's Connor Fennell at Vanderbilt. think he's going to be a utility guy.
Really?
Yeah. Connor Fennell is kind of like the catch-all, like the thing Vanderbilt didn't know that it needed.
Jay, is that a
Until it
separate
got-
podcast? Sam's question. That's a
Sam,
different.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to get an ID check. I mean, I fully believe you're above the 21 in the legal limit, but woo.
All right. I'm going somewhere with Connor Fennell. I don't think Vanderbilt knew it needed a Connor Fennell until it had a Connor Fennell. You know what you guys need that you don't know you need? Have I shown you these beautiful things yet?
Well, look at that. ABC. Always be closing.
Absolutely. Our friends at Game Time Sidekicks are now officially partners, and I've had their stuff for about a week, and I've just been not able to wait to talk about their stuff. And I can give you the details. They have stuff for all SEC schools, 350-something more universities. It's officially licensed steel drinkware. It is unbelievable quality. We had this partnership we were in the process of launching, and then I got the product. And I saw the guy that runs the company. I'll keep his name out of it just for privacy's sake, at the SEC tournament. We talked, and then I got the stuff in the mail. And I was like, holy smokes. I knew this was cool stuff, but I didn't know how cool it was till I got. Like, have you ever gotten tumblers? And we got a bunch of them in our house. And, like, the printing wears off and everything. Like, we must, between having a wife who works and a female daughter and a son who's got all kinds of stuff for travel baseball or, open baseball. Like, we got all kinds of these. I've never had one like this. This stuff is like, I don't know what the technology is, but it's like enamel paint or something that's on there and it's basically baked on. This stuff is unbelievably high quality. Got one of these. Haven't used this one yet, but it's got all the mascots on it. They got them for all your teams. Game Time Sidekicks is now a partner. We're going to have a promo code to get you a discount here in a few days. We don't have that set up yet, but I wanted to go ahead and let you guys know we've got a partnership with Game Time Sidekicks. I'm already using their stuff. I'm drinking my tea out of this morning, but man, sometimes you need stuff and you don't know you need it. You need one of these. Everybody needs a tumbler. You can get them for Christmas gifts, birthday gifts, whatever. Just thrilled to have Game Time Sidekicks as a partner, and we're going to get stuff for you guys on the way too. You'll see it for yourself.
Let's do it. We're a Tumbler family too. Can't function without them.
All right.
Looks like we got more votes for regional talk.
Okay. Regional talk. Tell me y'all's votes for who you think got the easiest regional path and who you think got the toughest in the SEC. I've got mine in mind.
Easiest, Texas.
I agree.
I concur, and I think LSU's is not going to be super hard either. And I mean,
Agreed.
I'm sorry. I know everybody loves Dallas Baptist and its story about being like Division VI in every other sport but baseball. But LSU and part of it being easy is the one seed is great, and LSU's great. But no, I think Texas is one on the easy scale. I think. And they're not a one. If I'm Alabama, I don't want to trade with any two either.
Yeah. Especially, I don't think they're going to face Southern Miss's ace either.
Yeah, which is a big deal.
Because that guy, he would be a Friday night starter at a lot of places in the SEC. He's awesome.
Yeah, I think Texas and LSU were my picks. If Alabama avoids their ace, I'm not saying Southern Miss is going to be easy because it's still not. They've got pitching. But so they're well, you know what? Columbia's pretty offensive, so I guess that's why Middleton would be throwing the opener. But the drop from Middleton to the other guys is considerable. And again, they got some other good arms, but there's that. I think Vanderbilt, I'm not going to say it's easy, but I think it's one of the easier ones. I think Ole Miss just got a brutal regional period. Like four really competitive teams across the board. Those are tough to get through. I think I picked Ole Miss to get out of the regional, but I think I might take the field in that one.
Really?
Just because I don't know.
If it makes you feel better, history under Mike Bianco at Ole Miss. So this is the 11th regional that Ole Miss has hosted under Mike Bianco. Ole Miss has made it out 7 to 10 times. Have only dropped 3. One of those
Super's where they have the issue.
Yeah. The very first one was like the very first regional Ole Miss has ever hosted. Ole Miss went 0 for 2. Ran into a guy named Tim Lincecum at Washington.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah, that would be tough.
I think Tulane made it out. I think Tulane went to Omaha that year. That was like early 2000s.
I think Tennessee's draw, well, I'll tell you what, Georgia's draw, the more we talked about it yesterday, was tougher than I knew because Oklahoma State's got a couple of guys that can really pitch, and Georgia's probably going to see one of those guys if it sees Oklahoma State. If not, it's going to see a Duke team that can really hit. I think Tennessee's draw, no, look, it's the MAC is not the SEC, and it's not even close. But on paper, Miami had a couple of guys that really pitched well this year. Starters Cooper Katsky and Carson Byers had ERAs of 2.66 and 2.65, and both of them threw over 70 innings. Now you get to the bullpen, and it gets pretty messy. But Katsky in particular was super, super effective and keeps the ball in the park. So I'm not saying that Miami's going to beat Tennessee in the opener. I trust Tennessee to win that game, but you know that might be a little bit of a yellow light there.
By the way, we got a lot of Hog fans in the chat saying that they feel Arkansas has a super hard regional. Like, I just don't buy. Like, I have so much confidence in Arkansas to make it out of there. Like, I really don't think you have much to worry about. Like, you played North Dakota State. They're like 12 or 13 games under 500.
Yeah.
So you're going to start 1-0, and then I trust what you have more than Creighton and Kansas.
You've got hands down, I think, the worst offensive team in the tournament in your opener. I mean, getting a cookie for a 4 always helps you. It helps put less strain on everybody, and especially your bullpen heading into game 2. Now, look, if you hit Kansas, those guys can hit bombs. And they could be a problem. Creighton, I think, is just kind of a balanced team. Creighton didn't really play anybody of the stature that they're going to see in this regional. I mean, I shouldn't say that, but for the most part, the teams that Creighton played were not NCAA tournament caliber teams. They're a good team, but when you look at them on paper, let me double check that to make sure I'm right. I don't know that they've got an ace that you're going to go up against in game 2 if that's who you get. I'm assuming Creighton goes Majors in the opener. He made GERS. No, they do have some bullpen arms, so there is that. But it's not a team with a lot of power. It's not a dynamic offense. So I think Arkansas is going to get through this fine.
Yeah, totally agree. Now,
I think the super is where people are hung up, and I get it.
Tennessee, a rematch with Tennessee, but again, it's in Fayetteville.
Right.
To me, other candidates for hard ones: Clemson Regional, Coastal Carolina, and then Florida State's.
Yeah, I think Florida State's. You've got 3 teams that could all win that regional. State could, Northeastern could, Florida State could.
Be furious with you, Chris. You've already eliminated from the draw. I want to apologize to all my HBCU brothers out there.
Someone had to lose.
You have so many.
I'm just throwing a cute. Have I told you my historically?
No, no, the answer to that question is no.
All right.
I have no idea.
Is this usable on the show?
I know you got a lot of things on your to-do list, Chris. So, a fraternity brother of mine named Ted and I enter the Omega Psi Phi Spades tournament at Auburn. And we walk in, and there are 700 people there, and we're the only 2 white people. It was like the Animal House scene when they go to the Dexter Lake Club, and they go, wait till Otis sees us. He loves us. Well, we walk in, and I can play cards. I'm good. So we start rolling, and all of these other black fraternity guys are now cheering for us against their friends. And we get to the semifinals, and first prize is $1,000. And Ted pulls me aside, and he goes, man, we could win this. And I look at him, I said, Ted, there's no bleeping way we're winning this. I'm tanking the next game. We are fan favorites right now, but we walk out of here as the 2 white guys in here with the cash. No, sir, we're not winning. So be prepared. We are about to get stomped. We lost 13-0 in the next round.
Where was this?
This was at Auburn. It was their fraternity fundraiser for Omega Psi Phi.
Gotcha. Wow. I don't have one of those stories.
My man,
you don't either.
Sorry, Earl. I have story time with Jay. Hey, back to Chris in baseball.
We could make like a Forrest Gump type movie about you or something. Like all the places you've been and stuff you've done. And
have I told you about the time I rode a bull?
No.
Should we use this one or save it?
No, we'll save this one.
Okay. Now I'm totally lost my train of thought. That's why we have stuff in front of us. Okay. Pitching decisions. Okay, this is what we've got. Oklahoma is saving Kyson Witherspoon for a possible Saturday night showdown with North Carolina and using Malachi Witherspoon.
Beer, guys. Brilliant. I mean, that is exactly how you play this.
Yeah. I'm just surprised that they're not going Cade Crossland in the opener.
No, sir, Dapper Dan. I would not pass the background check.
To follow up what you said, Chris, like I totally agree. I haven't watched Skip. I don't know if he has explained his decision, but why do you think he went that route? Went Malachi over Crossland?
I don't know. It might just be he's one of my guys. I trust him. We had him on in before the season. You know how much he talked about him and how much he loved the Witherspoon brothers. Sometimes coaches you just throw a bone at a guy who's not been as effective because, hey, you're my guy. I trust you. I'm going to show you I trust you. Maybe there's something about the pitch shape. You got all these analytics now that he thinks is going to be tough for Nebraska to handle. I don't know. I just looked at Nebraska's lineup, said very lefty heavy, and assumed that might be a Crossland spot. So that one surprised me.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he's thinking if it doesn't go their way, then you got your top 2 arms to fight your way out of the loser side of the bracket.
Could be. That's a good point also. That's a really good point, actually.
Crusty.
No, Crusty. I was never in the band.
Oh, okay. So we got that one. Where was that?
In Atlanta?
Atlanta. Okay. Yeah, of course. Okay. What did I have next?
So somebody asked about the Florida East Carolina pitching matchup earlier. Florida, according to their game notes, they're going Peterson.
Yeah.
Well, that's because East Carolina's got an ace, right? I mean, you got to factor that in, that if the other side's got one dude as a 3 or even as a 4, then you got to pony up, because you can move chess pieces all you want, but if you get beat double jumped in checkers in game 1,
yeah,
you're SOL.
Peterson's a righty, correct? Yeah.
Yes. Which pitching announcement are you the most intrigued by? on which team does what.
I'm just
I'm
intrigued to see
excited to
what
hear what
Texas
Auburn
throws.
says.
Well, that too.
Auburn and who was yours, Chris?
Texas, and I don't mean just game one. I mean just period. Because that's in a little bit of disarray would be too strong a word, but with Riojas not being super effective lately, I have some questions.
I could see him getting the Connor Fennell treatment in Slosh's plans for the regional.
Yeah. Well, and if Riojas faces UTSA, that's the team he pitched for last year. I don't know that you'd want to do that.
The emotional aspect of it.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows? They might know your tendencies, your pitches, if there's something that you do to tip a pitch. And there's any number of things I could think of.
Yeah.
Maybe they could answer why he's got that extra I in his name. He should just be Rojas.
Right.
And Jay,
I was looking up Florida. Go ahead. Carry on.
I was just gonna say Jay mentioned Auburn earlier, so if I was Auburn, I would hold Dutton. I mean,
Completely concur.
They're gonna take care of business again in their 1-4 matchup, and then you got Dutton against whoever's next. So that's what I would do
against somebody's two, and you've got the better offense. No matter if it's the Wolfpack or the Hatters. Hatters, underrated nickname.
It is.
If we go by nicknames, we may have Roadrunners Hatters in Omaha.
We could.
What about is Wolverines on there? That's like there's not that many.
Only if we're trying to fight the Russians and the Cubans in 1984.
Who do we decide? Is there Wolverines in the tournament?
Whatever Utah team made it.
Utah Valley?
Yeah, Utah Valley.
Hey, Cole's got a good question for you, Graham, in the chat.
Yeah, Cole, I saw you're dying for Mike to announce his decision. I think every Ole Miss fan is in this boat. What I think they should do, I honestly believe you have to pitch Hunter Elliott just because this regional is a challenging regional. You played Murray State earlier this season, a game that went extra innings, and the Rebels had to come from behind super late in that one to win. So I'm the believer, go with Elliott. He's been lights out. He's really good in especially postseason play, going back to his true freshman season. So that's what I would do. Just get confident, start 1-0, and then just figure it out the rest of the way. But again, in the history of Mike Bianco, he has only not thrown his true ace. He's only done that twice.
By the way, closing loop on Florida here. East Carolina's lineup is predominantly right-handed, and Ethan Norby has been pointed out will be starter there for them. He's a lefty. He's pretty good. Probably the underlying metrics are better than the ERA, which is 381. Struck out 4 times as many guys as he free passed. Keeps the ball in the park, so that won't be easy. And then let's see. Coastal in game 2. Aiden King's a lefty. And Barthol's a lefty. He's one of their better hitters. Bodine's a switch hitter. He's one of their better hitters. Don't know which way he hits better. Thorndike, one of their better hitters, also a lefty. So they're pretty balanced, but do have some lefty bats in there. So that's how that one sets up.
A few things here, Cole. Yeah, you are right. The Ole Miss Murray State game, it was a lifetime ago. So yeah, 3 pitchers did debut in that game. I get it. And then Chris, Eric has asked us a couple times, what's our game plans for live post game shows this weekend?
I'm gonna have to look at the schedules and find a time. I might even have you guys. Are you guys all going to be at home?
I am going to the Ole Miss game Friday, but I mean I can be back in time for.
And the time on that is what?
7 Central, I think.
Okay. Vanderbilt plays at 5 Central. I'm going to be in the park for that one. And I'm going to guess we'll start something around 9. So we may just go without you, and then you join us when you get in.
Okay.
Depending on who else is available.
So Earl Bender is going to be really pleased that I'm not going to be here to distract from the baseball chat.
Well, we've also got, let's see.
Hey, he liked your Red Dawn reference earlier.
I think there was some sarcasm in that.
Let me find the game times because I want to. Here's the other thing. I think we'll probably do multiple streams a day because you're going to have 2 different rounds of play. Okay, Friday you've got. Okay, I'm just going to read these in order. I'm going to go down the left side of the bracket and then the right side. Vanderbilt is at 5. Mississippi State 6:30. Oklahoma at 4. Florida at 11. And then back to the top on the right side. Texas at 1. Ole Miss at 7. Georgia at 11. LSU at 2. Tennessee at 5. Kentucky at 11. Alabama at 2. So you've got, 3 teams starting at 11 Central? Kentucky, Florida, and who else? So I'm thinking maybe a 1:30-ish for one live stream for the early games.
Okay.
And then maybe a late nighter. Don't hold me to that, but just as I look at the schedule, that would probably make a lot of sense.
And then another thing, Ben Hodge has asked a handful of times about our baseball bracket challenge.
I haven't set one up. If somebody wants to, you're welcome to. The only thing is I want to be sensitive to D1. They're in the baseball content business, and we are too, and I have friends over there. I don't want to, maybe go over and start a bracket challenge with our name on it and have that come across as free advertising on their platform, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So anyway,
he had asked a handful of times.
I wonder, does anyone else have one? Nothing against theirs, but
I doubt it.
I don't think anyone does.
And they're
eventually we need to start one, to be honest with you.
But they're different than we are. They got the whole country. We got, our priority is the 16 in the league and the 13 that made it to the dance.
What gave it away that the 16 teams in the SEC are our priority?
What gave it away? Does ACC 16 not work?
Who knows?
Hey, what about the website called Jay Acts Like He's 16?
Do we want to go there? Is that safe for work?
I mean, the only argument there is sometimes I don't act like I'm 16.
Let's see. Other stuff I've got to get through. I think we'll get out here in about 5 or 6 minutes. Let's see. Vanderbilt, I believe, is going to go with JD Thompson against Wright State, which is predominantly left-handed. It hasn't been announced, but listening to him talk, that sounded like the direction he's thinking. And I think, did we talk Tennessee? Marcus Phillips against Miami of Ohio. I believe that's where he's going.
We need to bring that up, yeah. We haven't touched on that.
Yeah, what are your thoughts there?
Probably the right move with the other teams in that regional that like to steal bases. So, and the other thing, you get to hold and save Doyle, so he gets to be as fresh as possible that he can be. And then you just lean on your SEC pitcher of the year in game 2.
I think somewhere we're contractually obligated to mention if Liam Doyle's name comes up. I heard he had a blister.
That might have been talked about on the show before.
By the way, why is that such a hot button issue? You
mean that people get upset that we talk about it, or?
Well, I mean, if it's a blister, in my opinion, that's a big deal, especially
if
it is your
recently of note from Boys World, Chris. BoysWorld.com.
For those new to the show, it's Boyd, B-O-Y-D. B-O-Y-D. Just going to make that crystal clear.
Well,
so that no one gets the wrong idea. And a good site for baseball information. Sam says Tony hasn't decided yet, but let's see. Where were we?
The blister. Doyle.
Get to the
blister.
finish line.
You mean why is that like? Why do people get upset when we talk about it, or why is it such a big
It
issue?
just seems like it's like a hot and button issue. Like I know, like Josh, whenever he's with us, you know,
Yeah.
he doesn't care for it in the chat. I
Yeah.
don't. I mean, to me,
you see kids go on the aisle in majors all the time with blisters.
Mm-hmm.
You grip the ball at the seams. There's friction. Like that doesn't just go away overnight. Now Sam says Doyle is starting Friday, so that's interesting.
Hope his blister's okay.
Now, if you're Tennessee, if Jay's always stirring the pot. If you're Tennessee, do you want Cincinnati or Duke in that case? Because I mean, not Duke, Wake. Wake's the better team. I don't think Cincinnati's that good for a 3 seed, but matchup wise, with the way they run, I don't know what you're rooting for if you're if you're Tennessee baseball.
Well, but if you are Tennessee, then if it is Cincinnati, you've got to go A.J. Russell in game 2 because Marcus Phillips, I mean, he can't hold anybody on.
Yeah. I'd be more nervous about Wake Forest, though, if I was Tennessee.
I think I would, too. Quinn, we did see the Kendall Rogers Mississippi State news. We spent about the first 15 minutes of the show talking about it. So you will be able to catch this all later. So just saying, if you want to hear what we thought about it, that's all there. Matthew Dallas at Wake. Yeah, that's returned to Knoxville potentially in a game 2 scenario against Tennessee. I think, was there anything else we were going to get to with pitching matchups? I think everybody else is really uncommitted at this point. And you said, I think earlier, you said you think Ole Miss will go with Elliott.
I'm just going on history there.
Yeah.
And I mean, Murray State is a very competitive 4 seed, so you just can't take anything for granted.
Yeah, and I think Mississippi State, too. Pico Cone has been, I think, in the one spot all year. And I think, given it's Northeastern, that it's won 27 games in a row.
And they're such a wild card. Like that's the most team I'm fascinated to watch, just because they've gotten a lot of buzz, and I'm just curious to see if they're legit or not.
State's got some stuff I think makes them underrated too. If I can pull it up,
Which
I was just
part?
looking.
Pitching wise or on offense?
Pitching. Well, I mean, offensively they hit the ball too, but pitching wise, like they stack up really well compared to the field and a lot of the pitching metrics, like runners on base, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean it's a super challenging regional for them. So could you imagine if they make it out and then they hire O'Connor? Boy, that's a good week.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, it'll be reminiscent of the scene in Hoosiers when Chelsea Ross thought, "See, I told you as soon as we got rid of him." When Chitwood comes back, I mean, wow.
St. Anderson's
Wes,
pitching
you're
first
spot
game
on.
for LSU. Okay.
Well,
I don't
no,
know
go
if
ahead,
that's
go
a
ahead.
move
I'm
I'd
sorry.
make, but yeah, go ahead. We're going to wrap it up here.
No, you wrap it up. I'm good. I can respond to him in the chat.
Yeah, I would, I don't remember what LSU and Jay Johnson have done in game 1s. I mean, again, North Dakota State is, I think, the weakest hitting team in the field. I would tend to want to save Kate Anderson, but every coach thinks it differently. So anyway, yeah, we're about out for the day. We will have, I think we'll do, you guys want to do predictions in the morning? Do our brackets? Maybe some of us? You out?
I'll try.
Okay.
Travel
We'll talk about that.
starts at some point tomorrow. They haven't had the draw
Yeah.
yet.
Well, we'll figure it out. We'll be on live tomorrow. We'll do some recaps of the game 1s and then a nightcap, and we'll rewind it all weekend. So be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Join the membership tier. We'll do some members only content coming up soon. For Graham Doty, Jay Greason, I'm Chris Lee. You've been watching our baseball content here at Southeastern 16.